Imagine checking your bank account. You look for your salary or savings, but the money isn't there. It's gone. You panic. You call the bank, scream, and assume there must be a mistake. After all, money doesn't just evaporate. Money leaves a trail. But what if I told you that one of Europe's largest and most respected technology companies woke up one morning to find 1.9 billion euros missing from its bank accounts? This wasn't loose change lost in the sofa cushions. It was all the cash the company claimed to possess. And the most terrifying part? The money wasn't stolen. It wasn't lost. It simply never existed. It was nothing more than a digital ghost on a computer screen. This isn't a story about a stock market crash. It begins in the heart of Berlin and stretches to cheap hotel rooms in the Philippines. It involves Libyan intelligence services, Russian spies, and the greatest financial illusion in history. This is the incredible collapse of Wirecard, a company once dubbed the Enron of Europe. Our story begins in Munich, Germany in the early 2000s. The world was searching for the next big thing in technology. Germany was an industrial giant, renowned for its cars and machinery. But in the digital sphere, it was lagging far behind Silicon Valley. The Germans were desperate. They wanted their own Google and PayPal. That is precisely when Wirecard stepped onto the stage. Initially, Wirecard did the dirty work that no one else wanted to touch. They processed payments for illegal gambling sites and pornography on the dark side of the internet. While big banks turned their noses up at these high-risk sectors, Wirecard said, "We'll handle it." It was a dirty business, but it was profitable. However, the company's visionary CEO, Markus Braun, had ambitions that went far beyond processing payments for adult websites. Markus Braun marketed himself as a technological messiah, wearing black turtlenecks and delivering intellectual speeches full of bold promises about the future of digital money. He styled himself as the Steve Jobs of the Alps. He saw Wirecard not just as a payment processor, but as the future of money itself. And the numbers seemed to back him up. Wirecard was growing fast. By 2018, it had grown so much that it entered the DAX 30 index, the most prestigious league in the German stock market. This meant that it was now sitting at the same table as giants such as BMW, Volkswagen, and Siemens. In terms of market value, Wirecard had even overtaken Germany's historic banking giant, Commerzbank. Germany finally had its tech titan. Investors were euphoric and pension funds poured money into Wirecard stock. Everything looked perfect. However, lurking behind this seemingly perfect picture was a dark question that no one dared to ask. Where exactly was Wirecard making all this money? According to the company's financial reports, the vast majority of its profits were coming from Asia, Dubai, Singapore, the Philippines. But here was the strange part. Wirecard didn't actually have its own offices or licenses in many of these countries. Instead, they used what they called third-party acquirers. On paper, the system worked like this. A local partner company in Asia would collect payments on Wirecard's behalf, take a commission, and deposit the remaining money into Wirecard's bank account. For years, Markus Braun and his team sold this story to investors. They claimed that business in Asia was booming and that they were making billions, but keeping the cash in accounts over there. However, a stubborn journalist at the Financial Times named Dan McCrum wasn't convinced. McCrum had been hearing whispers from short sellers, investors betting that Wirecard would fail. The rumors were simple. These Asian partners aren't real. The offices are empty. The money doesn't exist. When Dan McCrum began his investigation, he was not just up against a company, but an entire intelligence operation. Wirecard tried every dirty trick in the book to silence its critics. They even hired former spies to follow journalists. They even tried to hack his computer. They even sued him for market manipulation. Ironically, instead of investigating Wirecard, the German financial regulator, BaFin, opened a criminal investigation into the journalists exposing the fraud. Blinded by national pride, Germany protected the criminals and hunted the truth-tellers. At the center of these spy operations was not the CEO Markus Braun, but the company's COO Jan Marsalek. Marsalek was the embodiment of a James Bond villain. Instead of working from a boring office in Munich, he threw lavish parties in luxury villas, flew in private jets to war zones such as Libya and Syria, and cut deals with Russian mercenaries. On his desk, he kept a statue of Alexander the Great. Marsalek was the fixer. He was the one who created those ghost partners in Asia. The cat-and-mouse game finally ended in 2020. For years, the auditing firm EY, Ernst & Young, had signed off on Wirecard's reports. However, as the pressure mounted, they were forced to ask the simple question, show us the bank receipts for the $1.9 billion you claim is sitting in the Philippines, AG. Wirecard management stalled for months. They claimed that mail had been delayed and that the bank manager was unwell. But finally, the EY auditors flew to the Philippines in person. They visited the two banks, BDO and BPI. The answer hit them like a slap in the face. The bank managers said they had no relationship with Wirecard. The documents that Wirecard had provided were forged. The signatures had been faked. One bank employee noted that the documents appeared to have been created using Photoshop. The account numbers didn't exist. Then, on the morning of 18th June 2020, the bombshell hit. Wirecard announced that 1.9 billion euros was missing. A few days later, they reluctantly admitted the truth. The money likely never existed. The stock price crashed within minutes. Shares that had been trading at over $100 fell to under $1. Billions of dollars worth of investments evaporated instantly. The savings of retirees and the hopes of small investors were all gone. But the craziest part of the story unfolded during the collapse. CEO Markus Braun surrendered to the police and was arrested. Through his lawyers, he claimed, I was a victim too. Marsalek did everything. So what happened to Jan Marsalek? When the scandal first broke, he told his colleagues that he was going to the Philippines to find the money and clear his name. Immigration records even showed that he had entered the Philippines. Everyone thought he was a fugitive in Asia, but that was a lie. Marsalek had bribed immigration officials to create fake entry records to throw investigators off his trail. In reality, he had boarded a private jet from Austria to Belarus and then on to Russia. Western intelligence agencies suspect that Marsalek has had long-standing ties to the Russian GRU spy agency. Jan Marsalek is still one of the world's most wanted fugitives today, believed to be living in luxury in Moscow under the protection of the Kremlin. The Wirecard scandal revealed just how fragile the modern financial system is. A multi-billion-dollar company turned out to be nothing more than a hollow shell. Auditors were asleep at the wheel. Regulators turned a blind eye, and journalists were threatened. Ultimately, all that remained was the collapse of a digital illusion. Germany's tech dream turned into a nightmare. It taught us a brutal lesson. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is. Wirecard didn't just create fake bank accounts. They created a success story that we all wanted to believe in, and sold us that dream. But ultimately, the house always wins. Unless, of course, the house is empty.